We have quite the hour planned. I hope that you guys have an hour set aside because I'm really excited about the journey that we're going to go on together. It's going to be a little bit in the mind and mostly in the body because as a Western intellectual, like many of you are, I think that most of us spend the vast majority of our times in our minds, and we have yet kind of as a society begun to really understand what it means to not just be in our body, but to learn in the way of our body. It's kind of a strange concept. So, for myself, as some of you know, my name is Amanda Schendel, and I'm the founder and one of the incredible leaders of the Buena Vida Psilocyb retreats. We have just celebrated our 5-year anniversary with over 820 or so guests in the last 5 years going on deep journeys with psilocybin mushrooms. And in addition to the beautiful mushrooms, we also, over these years, all of my team have deeply begun to learn how important and accessible, most importantly, your breath is for changing your state. And today we're going to be leaning in a little bit more into what might be considered a psychedelic breath. And that will be one of the 3 different types of breath work that we're going to be learning and experiencing together. And the reason I put this together mainly for stress, if anyone can guess, is that that tends to be over and over and over the number one question or issue when I'm talking to guests that they deal with in their day-to-day lives. So 65% of you, when asked on the form, answered, what would you like to get out of this? Reduction in stress and anxiety, right? And the most popular answer after that was releasing trauma. Now, those two seem to go hand in hand, right? The more we can release, not necessarily understand, but release our old stories, the things that are just kind of the gunk, the emotional things that just get piled up in our body naturally from being a human over the years, the easier it can be to, when experiencing stress and anxiety, which is a natural part of life, it can be easier to drop into the safety of the body and the safety of the present moment. So I have found in my journey that you hear a lot like, just get in the moment and just let go and just be in the moment. And you're like, wow, wouldn't that be nice? If I could do that. And what I've discovered in my own self and my own body is that so much of the reason that I have been addicted to stress and addicted to drama and maybe even trauma is that I personally grew up in a home that did not have a lot of safety. So I was used to being hyper vigilant, keeping my eyes open for the next thing that was going to happen. And so that kind of programmed my body for stress, and it programmed me to be vigilant and be on the lookout. And so it didn't really feel that safe to be calm. And it didn't really feel safe to let go of that anxiety. And so anxiety has kind of been this constant friend of mine, convincing my mind that this is the best state to be in. Does anyone resonate with that? Oh, a little bit of stress addiction, a little bit of drama. We don't like to think of ourselves that way, but it can be true. And, our world, and many of you that are in positions, in work positions that can be highly stressful, as you know, stress is rewarded. And being anxious and going quick and being on alert is rewarded. And so it's not exactly in our society rewarded to be a calm, steady, conscientious person. So all of these things lead to this. And before we get going, I'm going to go ahead and throw up a little very, very short presentation here because I like on Zoom calls to know exactly what we're going to be doing. Maybe that's my controlling nature, but I'm going to let you know what we're going to be doing over the next hour so we can stay on it here. I just let in. Somebody else is still coming in. Welcome, welcome. All right. If you can see my screen, give a little wave, so give some fingers, give some thumbs, so we can see everybody's there. Fantastic. Okay, oh, we're not starting there. What would it be without a few little fumbles? All right, guys, so today, psychedelic breathwork for stress relief. That is why you are here. That is what we're going to be doing. And in the next hour, very, very short, again, on information and very long on experientials. So we're going to be speaking very quickly about what is psychedelics? What is that word? What does the word psychedelic mean? Psychedelic art, psychedelic music, psychedelic breath. The 3 different types of breath that we're going to be learning and experiencing are my favorites personally, and ones that have done me the most good day to day and over time. Those are the snake breath, the physiological sigh, and the conscious continuous breath. And then toward the end, we're going to have a time after our conscious continuous to have some questions. I know a lot of you asked some really great questions on even the Google form, and a little bit of a share. So real quickly, some of you, I know that there's probably someone out there who already knows what psychedelic means. And even if you don't know the definition, some of you have felt what psychedelic means, right, in your body. And quite simply, from the Greek words, which I cannot pronounce, it translates loosely to either soul revealing or mind manifesting. Now, those two things be very different, of course, depending on your definition of the mind and your definition of the soul. But the reason I love this is that anyone who I've sat with psychedelics, there is an unexplainable way that things in the background come to the foreground. Whether that's our soul, whether that's our spirit, our mind, something is coming to the foreground and being revealed to us. So psychedelic breath, in that way, it helps us tap out of that prefrontal cortex, that place we're spending most of our time, it's decision making, and it helps us tap into a deeper part of our psyche, a deeper part of our body. And what's magic to me, absolutely magic, is that our breath, much like our heartbeat, is a conscious and unconscious interaction. So when we go run up the stairs, we know that's probably going to change our heart rate, but we're not the ones beating our heart. We don't have to wake up in the morning and say, hey, heart, can you start beating? Now, with our breath, same thing. You wake up in the morning, you don't have to brush your teeth and say, hey, start breathing. You're just already breathing. I hope so. I hope you're breathing right now. However, we can also consciously choose to change the oxygen and carbon dioxide ratios to change how we breathe, and that will reverse engineer our physiology. So instead of saying like, okay, there's a stressful situation and my body is just going to react in this stressful way, when we change our breathing, this situation can stay the same. But to our body and to our psyche, we now are calm, or we now are stressed. Which is why sometimes when you watch a stressful movie, nothing is happening in your environment. Maybe your heart starts to race. If you notice you're holding your breath, you're breathing a little bit shallow. So what we're going to be learning today is that we also have control over this, and we can begin to signal to our body, regardless of what's happening in my conditional world, this is how I want to feel. And the last one here, you can raise your hand if you either have ever heard this or if you resonate with it. It's something I try to remember every day. Overthinking is under feeling. Overthinking is under feeling. Now, this is not a proven statistical fact. This is an opinion. And almost all of the time that I have a situation where I just decide to keep thinking about the facts over and over and over again, even though nothing new has happened, most of the time it's because I haven't tapped back into what is under this. What am I feeling about this situation? And like many of us, no one ever taught us how to feel. If anything, our feelings have been suppressed. We have decided, I think the average person thinks they have 3 feelings: happy, sad, and angry. And in reality, there are endless feelings. And no one ever said, hey, here's how you feel. If you are sad, here's how you feel through it. Here's how you actually let it affect your body. here's how you stay safe, here's how you let it process, and here's how you know when the feeling has processed. So this has been one of the missions of my life, is like, okay, great, feel your feelings, but what does that even mean, to feel my feelings? How do I know when they're done? When they've been cooked? And so that's what we're going to be kind of exploring a little bit together today. I don't want to spend too much time on this. What I really would like to focus on here, because I do a lot of research on breath, the brain, body, and pay attention to just the bottom one here. Anxiety, depression, stress, and chronic pain create interconnected pathways in the brain. So we can disrupt and rewire distressing brain pathways through slow breathing and focused attention. So this to me is what most people are seeking with psilocybin, is like, my anxiety and depression and pain now have created pathways that seem unchangeable. They've created behavioral patterns, thought patterns that seem like it's been 20, 30, 40 years and it's always the same. I always react the same. And so over time, this is what happens. But through our breath, not necessarily only through psychedelics, but through our own breath, which is free, which we have access to all the time, we can begin to rewire these pathways. Pretty exciting, huh? I think so. Let me go ahead and get out of here real quickly if I can. I'm going to let somebody else in. And if you don't have yourself on mute, I'm going to ask you guys to mute real quickly here so we can get you guys back going. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. Fantastic. There's Cynthia. Hello, Cynthia. Welcome in. So before we begin our snake breath, which is our very first breath, it's amazing, and it's going to make you feel a little bit silly. It's going to make you feel like, I don't know if I can do this, but you're going to feel fantastic afterwards. Before we begin, I'm going to do a really quick exercise with each and every one of you that we do at the retreats. I'm sure probably Carol went through this. I think Christy went through this many times. And that is called one word. And one word is just like it sounds. It's going to be, each person shares one word of how they are feeling right now. So that could be a real word. It could be maybe something like I feel floppily. You could make up a word. And if you don't know how you're feeling, I always tell people you can say banana. If you just can't think of anything, you say that. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to call your name. You guys can all unmute right now. Just go ahead and take your little microphone back to green. Everybody can unmute. And don't even worry about thinking of your feeling right now, because as it comes to you, it might be all of a sudden in that moment, right when I call on you, you're like, oh, I feel nervous. And the idea of this is just to hold space for everyone else. So if someone has an emotion that to you seems negative or seems that you don't like it, it's just everyone's word is what it is. We're not making comments. We're not giving feedback. We're just letting that exist exactly how it is right now. Sound good? All right, I'm going to start with Jim, and then we'll do Jim, Carol, and then Christy.
Tired.
Thank you. Carol?
Anticipation.
Awesome. Christy?
Thoughtful.
Thank you. And then we'll do Lisa, Elisa, I believe is your name, and then Eric.
Sleepy. I feel intrigued.
Thank you. And Eric?
Heavy.
Thank you. We'll have Jenny, Brent, and then Miriam.
Panicky.
Thank you. Brent?
Hopeful.
And Miriam?
Skeptical.
Thank you. Then we'll have Judy, Brianna, and Christian.
Stressed.
Hi, Amanda and everyone. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. My word is tense.
Hence. Thank you, Brianna. And then we'll have Christian, Lori and Cynthia.
Frustrated.
Thank you, Christian. And have Lori and then Cynthia. Ask Lori to unmute there. Maybe she can't. So Cynthia, we'll go with you first, and maybe Lori can't unmute right now.
Okay, I'm feeling a little nervous / stressed.
Okay, nervous, stressed. Good word.
Mhm.
Thank you, guys. And so I guess I'll go last here. I'm feeling jubilous. I don't think that's a real word, but that's okay. So the reason we go through this, did you guys notice? You might have noticed, and I know I always notice this in myself, that I actually, in the moment that someone else says how they're feeling, it's almost like I can feel that in myself. Like I can almost mirror that in myself of like, yeah, I have a little bit of that, and oh, I have a little bit of that too, and oh, okay, I guess I feel a little bit hopeful. So this is just the beginning. This almost feels like something that we should be doing, I believe, when we're in kindergarten and then forever, which is just like being perfectly okay with how we are feeling exactly right now, because we spend so much of our time trying to run away from the experiences of our lives. So what we're going to be doing is taking that emotion or that feeling that you have right now and becoming curious that through these next 3 breaths, by changing our physiological state, just changing the way that we breathe and the way that we maybe move a little bit, if that emotion moves at all. It may not, it may move. And so let's take a look, and we're just going to be curious with whatever you said and see if it changes. So for our first breath, you guys ready for the snake? Has anyone ever done the snake breath before? Snake breath? This one was taught to me by a coach of mine who noticed that I have a lot of frustration. Does anyone else? Frustration, right? It's not that I have necessarily so much anger, but frustration. Why did that happen? Why did this? Like a lot of sparky little pieces of frustration throughout the day. And so this breath is going to be a way to bring something to your mind, and you can do that right now, either from today or this week, maybe your whole life, that just kind of gets at you. Something that's just a person, maybe a situation. It could be as simple as like whenever I'm in traffic. It could be something in the news, but something that just gets you kind of heightened or frustrated. And the snake breath is about feeling that fully on the inhale and then letting it go and kind of feeling the frustration through the exhale. So I'll give you an idea of what it looks like, and then we're going to do it together just for 3 breaths. So the snake breath is a nice deep inhale through the nose, and then on the release, it's out through the mouth, and we're gonna make almost a hissing sound like a snake. But the idea is to be as expressive with the face as possible. So this is what it looks like. Until all of the breath is out, and then we go back in with the inhale. So if you are ready, what I notice sometimes when I do this one is people like to make a tiny, tiny little snake. They like to go. But what I would encourage you to do, if you can, is to really get into that, like express in the face, kind of express in the eyes, and release that breath. And we're slowly, it's coming out through the mouth slowly. And once every piece of that carbon dioxide and oxygen is out of your mouth, you go back in to the inhale again. That makes sense? Yeah, a little thumbs up or a little fingers. We gotcha. Okay, so you can follow along with me. Let's get a little bit comfortable. You can shake out your shoulders, shake out your legs a little bit. We're getting into our snake. We're gonna hiss. We're gonna hiss at that little thing, that something that's needling at us. You can close your eyes if you would like to. I always just enjoy closing my eyes with breath so I can focus a little bit more on my body. And on the count of 3, we're going to go ahead and take our big inhale through the nose. 1, 2, 3. Nice big inhale. All the way in and hiss it out. And when it's all the way out, another inhale. You can do this in your own time. Nice big face. And the next one, the biggest inhale you've taken so far. And slow release. At the end, return to your breath, return to whatever your body wants to do, and just stay here for a moment. Begin to notice some changes. I feel a little bit of heat in my body. I feel like my heart's beating a little bit more. And today I was hissing at my emails. I was releasing that stress and allowing myself to be here right now. So you can shake that one off, snake breath. That one I do throughout the day, usually in those moments when I feel the frustration start to creep and I feel that I'm holding it in and I'm about to really want to release it. Sometimes I'll even pull my car over and I was like, okay, 3 snake breaths. I've got to get rid of that. And there's something about the face too that allows you to feel the frustration, allows you to like really feel it out. And so it's positive in the sense that we're not taking this out on anyone else, right? We're not turning our anger into aggression, but we're also allowing our body to feel frustration because it's there, it's real, might as well feel it. So that is our snake. We're going to be moving on next. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and share here to the physiological sigh. I know that I'm a bit of a breath nerd, but this is hands down. I love mushrooms. Those of you that know me know that I love mushrooms. I love psychedelics, but we don't, or at least I hope you don't, take psychedelics or take mushrooms every day. You're not going to be taking psychedelics for the rest of your life. So breath work is a daily practice. It can be a daily or a weekly practice that can tap us into the states that we are seeking many times from psychedelics. So the physiological sigh, this was actually studied beginning in the 1930s, but it has come back to popularity mainly through Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is the neurobiologist from Stanford. I highly recommend listening to the Huberman Lab podcast if you have an interest in anything to do with the brain, the body, and he does very practical, like here's all the science, but here's how you can actually use it. And that's why I love Dr. Huberman. So the physiological sigh is the quickest way to calm your body, to calm your nervous system, no matter where you are and no matter how you're feeling. So even even 1 to 2 of these breaths, the reason they kind of found out about this in the 1930s was that when we are in deep stress or when we're in deep sleep, our bodies naturally do this. You probably have seen, if you have a dog, if you have an animal in your life, or if you have a partner that comes home from work, right? They close the door and they go, ugh. And you may have even seen your dog do it. The dogs naturally know how to do it. It's like this 2 inhale breath. They'll just go. So the physiological sigh is 2 inhales and 1 extended exhale. And what we're doing on the first breath is we're filling up our lungs with oxygen. Our lungs have hundreds and hundreds of these little sacs inside of them. So it's not just 2 big sacs of air. There's actually tiny, tiny, tiny little sacs all over our lungs. And so the second breath, which is at the top of the first one, I'll show it to you. Don't worry about it. The second breath fills in all of those extra sacs with more oxygen, which is helping not only to take in more oxygen, but we're trying to offload that carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide gets stored as a gas, of course, in our body. And when we have too much carbon dioxide, when the ratio is off, that can lead to us feeling stressed, feeling like we're in that fight or flight. So the idea here is not only to re-oxygenate the blood, but it's also to get rid of any of the old stale carbon dioxide in our blood. The extended release is what lets that out of the body. And the extended release just really means breathing out every last bit of air. So all the way until you're almost like you're about to gasp. And that's when you come back and do the second one. So that will depend on all of us on our lung capacity. Now, the sighing part, I promise you, and all the people I've worked with over the years, the hardest thing that anyone has, excuse me, has a problem with is making sounds. I'm not sure why that is. I know for years I took yoga and I always hated the people that were like, ah, ah, ooh. They were always breathing. Like, why do people have to breathe so loud? Like, why are they making those sounds? And I was very judgmental over people who would like make sounds when they would breathe. And that was until I realized, oh, wait a second, this actually feels really good. And not only that, but the vagus nerve, which is our longest nerve system in the whole body, it runs down the back. It runs through your whole body, but it runs from the brainstem down the back of your ear. And this nerve system is responsible for a great majority of regulating your nervous system, regulating whether you're in fight or flight, if you're in parasympathetic, rest and digest. So the sigh itself, when we go, this vibrates our vocal cords, which vibrate the vagus nerve. So the actual vibration, the louder the vibration, the more signal that it gives, like I am safe, I am rested, I am present. So this is part of that reverse engineering. Even when your mind is like, you're not safe, you have all these things to do. What are you talking about? You can say, hold on a minute there, mind. I'm going to do this breath and I'm going to show you, I'm going to show my system I am safe, I am present, and I'm calm. So before we begin this, are there any specific questions on the physiological sigh before we begin? And if not, we're going to get it going. This one really changes my life, you guys.
I have a
Oh yeah, go ahead, Brent.
The sound that we make, should that be kind of like a high-pitched noise or a low-pitched noise? What frequency should that sound be at, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter because really the vibration is what matters. So it's not that you're necessarily like singing a sound or trying to make a sound. It really is just the natural sound. If you were, I'm sure all of you have done it right after a long, stressful day and you're like, right? It's just the natural sound that you make. And we're giving it a little bit of energy and a little bit of effort so that once we take those 2 big sips of oxygen, we're going to have our lungs completely filled. So instead of just breathing out like this, like, we're going to do a long, slow, so it really, yeah, the frequency or the tone doesn't matter at all. It's just that, and you'll be able to feel it, right? You're kind of just, you're feeling that vibration in your vocal cords, that's what's signaling to the vagus nerve. Good question, though. And you can make whatever
Great.
sound you want.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully no one can hear you. And if they can hear you, too bad. They can just silently judge you. It's fine. All right, so before we begin, we're gonna get back into our bodies here for a moment. If you can, if you're in a safe place, you can close your eyes. Kind of tap back into where you're at. Maybe you're feeling the same way you did at the beginning of this. Maybe something has started to shift. Just come into a little bit of presence with yourself here. And again, before we begin this breath, we're just going to do 3 of them, because even with 3, we're going to notice a huge change. And the way that it looks or sounds is that there's a nice big inhale first. It's a little bit forceful. So as you'll hear, my first inhale is a little bit forceful. And then right at the top, right when I think I can't inhale anymore, I still do another small one. That's that second breath. And then on the exhale, till all of it's out. And then we go into the second. So let's go ahead and get ready. We're going to do the best we can. We're learning something new. You can let yourself know I'm going to give this a little bit of effort. I'm going to tell my body that I'm safe, that I am present, I am here. And let's go ahead and on the count of 3, we'll begin our nice deep inhale through the nose. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. And then right at the top, another little sip. And release. All of the air out when it's out. Inhale deep again. And another one. All of it's out. Do the biggest one you've done today. Inhale. And another inhale. And release. Turn to a normal breath. You can keep your eyes closed. And just take a moment here to truly feel what's going on, not in your mind, but in your physiology. How does your chest feel? How does your stomach feel? I know I hold a lot of tension in my stomach, so I'll intentionally release that tension in my stomach. Come back into the body. And I'm going to bring us back into this space. I know it can be easy to stay in that nice, juicy moment as we sigh. So please, please, please don't wait until your body is overwhelmed to give that sigh, give that release to yourself. You might feel even a little bit lightheaded right now. That's normal, as we're taking in a little bit more forceful oxygen. I know I can suddenly, when I become a little bit more calm, I can see my peripheral vision is a little bit greater. I feel like I'm more present here. So those 2 are my daily breaths. If you notice yourself in a stressful situation, not wanting to do these breaths, that is the best time to do them. Because unfortunately, our mind and our anxious mind can be a liar. And I know this because it happens to me every time, all the time. And it will say, I don't want you to do that breath, Amanda, because if you do that breath, you're going to feel better. And I want you to be stressed right now. This is my mind being like, I want you to be anxious right now, because if you're not anxious, you're not going to make it happen. So that's what I find is the best time to actually do those. And that was probably 28 seconds. I think the snake breath, 28, 35 seconds. These are all very short and you can do them throughout the day. And I promise you, from now doing this physiological breath for about a year, I always feel different after I do it. I'm not saying it creates world peace or solves all my problems, but it allows me to not be as myopic and not be as small and focused in my anxious mind as I might have been. And for me, it's the quickest way to change states. So those are the two. And before we move on into our conscious connected breath, because I want to make sure that we have time for this little bit longer form breath that we're going to be doing today. We have a few minutes. If anyone would like to unmute and either share a little bit about how they're feeling, how that felt to your body, or if you have a question, we have just another few minutes here and you can go right ahead. Don't even have to raise your hand. Everybody's good. You're all just so peaceful. Yeah,
No.
Jenny, let's have Jenny first, and then Brent, I'll go right to you right after.
Okay.
I was just wondering if there's any like resources for looking up breaths like this. Is it like a Huberman Lab podcast we should look at? Like, I just don't know anything about this, so I'm interested in learning more. And I always like forget about it because I went to the retreat and we did this, and it felt really good. And then I like promptly forgot about it when I went home. So the way to remember, I guess.
The follow-up of some of my favorites. For me, it's really kind of a, conglomeration of a few different things I found over the years. Honestly, the best resource that I have is called the Breath Channel. And it's from a woman, her name is Stevie Wright. She's actually was a coach of mine for a while. And she has, I think at this point, over 80 different videos. They're anywhere from like 3 minutes to an hour, and they all relate to different states of being. So it's like anxiety, anger, end of the day, morning energy, like depending on the way that you want to feel, there's a breath for that. And it's like such an amazing resource. If I'm feeling like in the morning, a lot of time, like I don't have the energy, it's like, okay, let me just go do like a 4-minute like morning energizing breath. That's a lot of like getting things going. So the Breath Channel, I think it's $10 a month or something like that. So that one is like a like a paid membership. And then there's tons of resources. I'll send you some podcasts and some people that I just like on YouTube that have some. These two ones in particular are kind of my go-to. Like when I want to do some different things, I'll go into the Breath Channel, but these are the ones that I have found for like day to day. I need to change my state and I want to become more present. These two have been really powerful. But yeah, thank you for that. I'll make sure to send you some of my faves for sure. And then Brent, what was your
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. I mean, I've done breath work, so I shouldn't be surprised. But I would change my word to relaxed. There's been a noticeable difference in how I feel, my attitude. I had a little bit of a headache when we started, and it's much less than what it was. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Fantastic. I love to hear.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I continue to be amazed as a skeptic and as someone kind of like Jenny said, that I forget this stuff all the time. I mean, this is even the work that I do, and we forget it all the time, And like I said, the mind is a tricky monkey, right? That like really wants to convince us that like what we're experiencing is reality. And I had almost a joke that came to me the other night for some reason. I was kind of like journaling, and it's kind of said, the mind is so crazy, especially the anxious mind. It throws you a future situation and then says, hey, figure this out. Hey, figure this out. Hey, you have to solve for this. And you're like, that isn't even real. But then sometimes we take it on and go, okay, well, I just had a thought. So now I have to like figure it all out and I have to solve for that future situation that isn't happening. And so in a way, I had to just laugh at my mind. I was like, you're so silly. Like, why are you making these things up and then handing it over to me as if it's my responsibility to figure that all out. So it helps me to have kind of a curious and humorous relationship to my mind and to my thoughts, to not take them all so seriously. Just be like, oh, that was a funny thought, like, haha, little monkey mind, you're funny. But I can also choose to not overthink you too much. And then some days I forget to choose, and here we are. So Christian, raise our hand, go it right ahead.
Hello, I was wondering if you have any breathwork tips that you could do if you're interfacing with somebody that's driving you crazy?
Great question. Okay. What I would say is that when you're in that situation, what you can do, what I like to do generally is, and this happens to me, a stressful situation or a person, if you can find a way to put one of your hands somewhere on your body or both of your hands, that may, I mean, obviously you don't want it to look like too obvious, but the way that I like to ground myself when I'm in that situation is to kind of like hold a part of my body, my legs under my desk, or hold somewhere. And that, what that does, this isn't your breath, but that's kind of an embodiment. It's a somatic tool to kind of tell your body, like, I'm here. I'm here. Like right now, I'm touching my legs and it just feels like I'm here for you. So it's a way to not, for me to not get lost in maybe what that person's energy is saying or doing. And then I would focus on longer exhales as the interaction is happening. So as the other person is talking, most of the time, the natural reaction will be to have super short inhales and just shortness of breath. So if someone's coming at you with something, the natural reaction will be like, that will just be what happens. And as we kind of saw in one of the slides, like when we have those shorter breaths, especially in and out through the mouth, it immediately fires up the amygdala, which is our like fear and anxiety response in the brain. And so as we can, if we can focus on, as they're talking or as we're talking, one or two longer exhales, like as long as you possibly can, because a long exhale immediately signals to your body that everything is okay. So everything may not be okay in that situation, but what you're trying to do is, as you're facing it, is to at least slow your system so that once you're out of that situation and you can, you know, kind of deal with it on your own, you'll have a little bit more presence. So those are the two things I do. A lot of the work that I do with my coach is about somatics, is about like how I touch my body or how I move or hold my body as a way to signal certain things internally. And, you know, another way, like obviously if someone's coming at you, you might want to close up, you know, a little bit. You might want to kind of protect yourself. If you're able to kind of stay like genuinely open-hearted with your shoulders back and just available like that, that's also a signal to your body, like, I'm here for myself, I'm aware, I'm in this situation. Yeah, those are some, I hope that's helpful. But long exhales always. You'll notice when you're stressed, it's really challenging to make a long exhale. And so, again, I'm borrowing this from Dr. Huberman, but he always goes on and on about, don't wait for the situation to dictate how you're feeling. Like reverse engineer, meaning use your biology first, use your physiology first to tell your body how you're doing. And then you'll have more capacity, you'll have literally more bandwidth to then deal with the external situation that's in front of you. Great question. That's an awesome one. Okay, guys, so we're getting toward, does anyone have to leave at the hour? Because as always, I love talking and Zooms go a little bit longer, but I want to make sure that we have time for this. I'm guessing we're going to go until about, like, it's a Pacific time here, but probably 5:15. So about another half an hour or so. What I would say is if you have to go right at the hour, it's probably best to not start the conscious connected breath, just because it would be a little bit disruptive to like get up and go do something else. So if you're able to, if you have the next 30 minutes, I'm going to share one more time. Oh, look at us. There's me and my ladies. Oh man, we're all so silly. I don't know. We just look so serious there. Okay, so for our conscious continuous breath, don't do this right now, but when I tell you to, you are going to find a place to lay down and little notes of support under your head. And what that means is it's better to not have a pillow, or if you do a very thin pillow, you know, you can put support under your knees or whatever is comfortable. But what we're doing here is when you have too much of a pillow, there's not, you're not able to like fully breathe into your chest and your stomach. So being as flat as possible is best. If you have your headphones available that you can connect and listen both to the music and to my instructions, that's going to just put you into the zone a little bit more. And eventually, again, not right now, we're going to have our eyes close and trust our bodies. So that is a challenge sometimes, but I promise you, your body will not give you more than you can handle. And I have been in some crazy places, and my body always gives me just what I need at the moment. So, a little bit of instruction on the conscious continuous breath. Some of you that have been to a retreat may have done this with our beautiful Autumn, or perhaps a different instructor. And this is a very simple breath to learn. So it's not going to take a lot of instruction because you already do it most of the time. But when we breathe naturally, the way we're breathing right now, is that we kind of take a little inhale, and then there's like a little break, and then we take an exhale, and then there's a little break, and then we take an inhale. So the conscious continuous breath is just like it sounds, is we're choosing to continuously breathe. So instead of like that little break, and then an exhale, and then an inhale, it's a little bit more rapid. And so it's an inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale nose, exhale mouth. So it's a little bit more rapid than our usual breath. And what that's going to do is it is going to change the ratio of oxygen and carbon dioxide in our body temporarily. This is completely safe. If you have any, of course, heart issues or anything that you know of, just pay attention to your body. Resistance is very normal, and resistance is to be expected. Pain or sharp pains or things that just don't feel right, that's when you, regardless of me, you stop the breath, you return to a normal, just regular pattern of breathing. But if you're just feeling the mind chatter, which I'm telling you guys, I've been doing breath work continuously for 3 years now, and I always get this every time. I don't want to do this. This is stupid. Why am I doing this? This feels weird. I should be doing something else. And that actually is a function of your brain. And your brain knows that you are dipping out of that prefrontal cortex of that awareness, and you're going into a different brainwave state. So in a way, the ego is trying to prevent you from moving states. So it's going to throw a lot of excuses at you. This feels uncomfortable. This feels awkward. Why am I doing this? I want to go watch Netflix. A million things. So I just want you to expect that in the first minute or so, maybe even 3 minutes, 4 minutes, those stories will be there. And the only thing that you have to do is just keep doing the breath. And I promise you, you will get to a place where it will become a little bit easier, where those voices will just, the volume will turn down, and you will become more present in your body. So the purpose of this breath is to show you and give you a taste of what it means to have this mind manifesting or soul revealing breath work. Because this one, even though we're just going to do it for about 10 minutes, can have profound impact, not only on your state. Some of you may have emotions that come to the surface. Some of you may have a memory that comes to the surface. Some may feel bliss. Some may feel pain. It's incredible what is lying just below the surface of our day-to-day life. And all we have to do is kind of increase this breath and give it a little bit of energy. Like I said, I sometimes when I see people do this, they just kind of go like, but I really want you to give it a little bit of effort. And I'll encourage you as we go along, a little bit of, and so you're filling up your stomach and your chest and your stomach with air. So if you just breathe shallow, it just kind of goes, right? It just kind of goes into the chest. But if you really breathe, your lungs expand, your stomach expands, and on that exhale, you get everything out. Any questions about the breath? That conscious, continuous inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be moving it along. Things that can happen, this probably won't happen in this short of a breath, but cramping in the fingers, Cramping in the mouth or the face can happen. It's completely normal. Eventually things will uncramp. What you can do if that starts to happen is we call it like lobster hands, because your hands just get kind of tight. And it's called tetany. No one has ever stayed in tetany. Like, it will release. But what you can do is you have two choices. You can either just stop the breath and just kind of relax, or you can keep really breathing and try to bring that breath into those places, because usually this is you meeting a point of resistance. There's something that's not quite wanting to be felt or be witnessed. And so either way, if you can't get your hands unclamped, or if your toes get kind of clampy, just know that it's normal. I've had it happen to me a bunch of times. I choose generally just to continue the breath. And then after we do our kind of relaxing come down, everything releases and it goes back to normal. All right, guys, are we excited? I'm going to go ahead and it is, we're going to give you guys 3 minutes to get your headphones. If you need to go to the bathroom, drink a sip of water, but just go ahead and get comfortable. Get your headphones on or turn your volume up if you don't have headphones, so that you can hear my voice. And we're going to be playing some music as well. And I'm really excited to see this little journey that we're going to go on together. So go ahead and take the next few minutes here. I'm going to go ahead and turn a little bit of music on. So once you're in your space, you can start to get really cozy. You can begin to close your eyes down. What I like to do in these moments is just remember, this is just the next few moments of your life. You don't have to solve everything or change everything. We're just going to be breathing together, just changing our state and seeing if we can experience something a little bit different, something a little bit new. And as you begin to lay down, see if you can make your body as comfortable as possible. If that means placing something under your knees or your feet, maybe moving your shoulders down and away from your head. You need to get any shakes out, shake your knees, shake your hands. Just begin to come back into your body. And as a reminder, this is our continuous breath. So right as we inhale through our nose, we immediately exhale through the mouth. And once everything is out of the mouth, right back into the nose, it helps to open the mouth. Make sure that you're releasing so that you're not just inhaling, but that your inhale and your exhale feel like they're an equal measure. So you can do a few practice if you like. I like to put one hand on my heart or my chest and one hand on my stomach. And you can kind of feel that inhale. You can begin to feel where that breath is going in your body. Sometimes our breath can only really go into our chest. Other times it travels all the way into our stomach, and we can really get that full inhale But whatever is available for you today, if that's a deep inhale, if it's a shallow inhale, just trust that this is your body telling you, this is where I'm at right now. And so as we get comfortable, in just about 10 seconds, we're going to begin. As a reminder, in the beginning here, it is a little bit of work. We're kind of climbing a mountain so that we can see the view. And so it's going to feel like we're doing something a little bit new and we're giving ourselves a little bit of effort. And so whenever you are ready, I will be guiding you. I will be here for you. You're going to return on this journey and you can begin your breath. That's right. Nice deep inhale, deep exhale. Continuously breathing. We go through rounds together. So we have a little bit more time in this round. Don't give up. Don't keep doing a few more of those big breaths. I promise you the medicine is worth it. Find a rhythm that feels some energy and some effort behind it. And for this round, we're going to take 5 more rounds of breaths together. So count 5 more inhales and exhales, and then we're going to take a break. Down and return to a normal, regular breathing. Eyes closed. Doing it exactly. This moment, I love to send some kind words to my body. I love you. Thank you for doing everything you do for me. Thank you for allowing me to be so magical and powerful. What nice words you'd like to say to your body. Now we're going into our next round. It will be a little bit shorter. So we can go ahead and continue. Breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Great job. Your mind size will just keep inhale. Whatever is happening, happen. Anything is coming to the surface, we welcome it. We continue to breathe. We're going to do 5 more here to finish out this round. 5 more deep as you can. Nice deep inhales, big full releases. When you're done, release, release, release the breath. Notice any sensations. Any emotions, any thoughts are welcome. Doing it exactly right. Together, we are going to head into our last, final, and shortest round together. Here, we're going to give it a little bit of energy, a little bit of effort right toward the top of the mountain. So we go in, begin to feel our strength, ability to show up. Feel head. One last round. Nice deep inhale through the nose. Any movements that are happening can happen. If you need to shake, if you need to move your body, it's welcome. Need to make a sound. Allow your body to do what it wants to do. Continue the breath. You're doing such a great job. Do this, you've got this. Kind of round, giving it energy. Excellent. Just about another minute. I believe we can do anything for a minute. The view from the top of the mountain is going to be fantastic. Take some deep breaths you've taken all week into close. Release. Anything that needs to move, you need to make a sound, you need to release. Right toward the end. Coming to our 5 final breaths together. And take those on your own time. 5 inhales, 5 exhales. And on your final exhale, I want you to take a huge, huge, huge breath in and hold. And hold right at the top. Hold that breath. Stay with that presence. And whenever your body tells you to release, this is not a competition. When your body says it's enough time on the hold, whenever you're ready, you can release. Return. Keep your eyes closed. Enjoy. Present with whatever is here. Whatever is happening, let it happen. Here, this presence. You can ask your body, what do you need from me? What do you need? Sometimes you get an answer, sometimes you don't. Just patience. Moments here. Begin to stretch. Begin to awaken your body, wiggle your toes. Oh, everyone. Welcome back. So for our return back into this place together, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Every experience with our breath is different. Some are very deep, some are challenging. Sometimes we feel numb. Sometimes we feel everything. And I want you to know that you did it exactly right for tonight, for this day, for your body, exactly how you are right now. There's no right or wrong way to have these experiences. But what I would like to do is to open up the space for any experiences that you would like to share with the group, how you're feeling, anything that came up for you. And as a reminder, with everything that we do, at least that I like to do with the Buena Vida, is that there are no positive or negative experiences or right or wrong or should have been, shouldn't have been. It's just exactly as it is. So feel free if you had a beautiful experience or a tough one or whatever it was, it's completely welcome here. And yeah, just go right ahead. If I see a few people at the same time, I can kind of call out your name. But if anyone has words or a question, the floor is open. Yeah, I saw Brianna.
I'd say
I guess we'll do Brianna and then Jim right after. Thank you guys.
Listen, I'll just do a quick mic check. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much, Amanda. That was beautiful. I really loved taking time and space to just focus on the breathing. The first word that came to mind at the beginning of the session, was tense. It had to do with the fact that I was driving home from work, and so I couldn't be fully present in the moment, and I was also cold, and so I felt a lot of tension in my body, and so I felt tense. And since then, I've been able to get home, quickly change into PJs, and really dive fully into the last piece of breath work that we did. The first two, because I was driving, I couldn't fully dive in. And I couldn't fully focus on that because I had other things to focus on. But this last one, I was able to lay in my bed, be in my PJs, and really focus on how my body was feeling. And now I'm warm. My back doesn't hurt. I don't feel tense. And I was able to leave work at work and in the car and not bring it into this space. So I do not feel tense anymore, which is really nice. It was a little bit difficult to focus on that breathing though. And so that tells me that I'm supposed to be here and I'm supposed to be working on that breathing. And so I just appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that. Beautiful. Yes, these can be a challenge at first, and I mean, not even at first. They can be a challenge anytime. Taking time away from the external and going internal is not easy at all. It's really not an easy process, especially if we're not used to it. So thank you for sharing that with us and showing up for yourself, and give yourself a little pat on the back. You're like, I did it. I came here and I was present and I went through it. So that's awesome. Thank you for that. Mr. Jim, what do you got for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, originally I was tired. Now I'm relaxed. Although I did have the dogs come visit me while I was laying on the floor breathing heavily. They were a little concerned, but it was good. Appreciate it. Thanks again, Amanda.
Absolutely. That's common. Pets love this. My dog, every time I go, he's very interested in what we're doing.
Yes.
Thanks for being here and showing up for us.
Thanks.
Did anyone else have an experience, any sensations, anything they found was challenging or easy to do throughout the experience?
hey, it's Christian. I would say I felt like floaty, which was really, really cool. And I had an eye mask on, which I've never done before for like a meditation type thing or even sleeping. The only time I've ever used the eye mask was on the retreat. So having that on, I thought was really, really helpful too. So thank you. It was great.
Christian, do I know you? Were you at a retreat with me?
I was at a retreat and your face was like on the roof, but you weren't there.
Okay.
No, yeah, I was at one retreat and I've been on a couple of these calls.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for always coming back.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Those floaty sensations, right? That like when we kind of start to oxygenate, for a lot of us, we just don't breathe deeply, hardly ever, if we haven't trained ourselves how to throughout the day. I know if some of you guys have like an Apple Watch, right, and will tell you to breathe sometimes. I find that so funny because, my ego thinks, oh, I'm someone who does breath work, but like still my watch will tell me to breathe. And I'm like, thank you, watch. Like I was forgetting to take a deep breath. So sometimes when we start doing these much deeper, that was only continuously about 8 minutes of breath, but taking in, more oxygen. And it's like there's so many endless health benefits to like having a nice, beautiful supply of oxygen in your body, of course. It can make us, yeah, that kind of like floaty sensation, that ethereal, and it can be pleasant. It can also be challenging sometimes. So I'm glad that you felt that it was pleasant. Anybody else want to be brave or have a question? Anything about, actually anything at all? Anything about psychedelics or mushrooms or life? I'm open.
Hi. Um, I was on a call that you did a few weeks ago for executives, and you shared the second breath of the sigh, and I've been using that since the since that call, and I really like that a lot. I find it centers me and just kind of just puts me in that like chill zen space. And the third one that we did, I felt like my face was getting a little numb and tingly, and I wanted to like, I almost felt like I had like, like when you see a dog, like when they shake, which is actually interesting because when the dogs shake, they're getting rid of energy. Um, and I just realized that now that while I was laying there, I felt like it wasn't like I had a chill. It was different from chills, but it was like I physically wanted to shake. Um, so that was really cool. That was really interesting. So thank you for sharing these tools with us. And the other one too, I can just imagine if like my kids, my teenagers are bothering me, and then I just like start doing the snake and just like while we're talking or while they're giving me a hard time, I start hissing at them. They'll be like, "Whoa, let's not scare mom." So thank you for those. Thank you for those tools. I'll have to try it on them. I'll report back.
You can have a dual purpose. It can make your kids like get away from you because they're scared of mom, and you'll be calming yourself. Yeah, thank you. And Lisa, like you are absolutely 100% right that intuition to shake is one of the best ways that we can get rid of anything in the body. Like I had a kind of like the only difference between a traumatic experience and a stored traumatic experience is that we didn't get to fully process it in the moment when it was still present with us. So an interesting study I read said that many times children who experience what we would consider in society as like a big T trauma, right? So something like a parent dying, for example. Generally, those children don't have as much long-term trauma as those of us that have experienced the more day-to-day. And the reason they hypothesize is that generally those children get more care and attention and ability to process that trauma. Whereas these small little ones that we experience all throughout our lives that we kind of stuff away and we don't pay attention to, or we don't shake off, or we don't process through the body, those are the ones that tend to get stored. And that's kind of the opposite that you would think, right? You would think, no, it's the people who've had the big experiences that probably have later on in life. So the shaking, I mean, I do that all the time, the shaking, not only just in the morning to wake up, but yesterday my dog, I have some alpacas at my ranch here, and my dog, who's about this big, he never goes near them, but for some reason he went into their corral. And these alpacas are like 300 pounds, and I was like, they could kick him, they could hurt him. And so it was a really stressful situation, and I couldn't really get in there, and he kind of froze. And And so eventually I got him out and he was okay. But in that moment, you know, everything in me, it was like total fight or flight. I have to go save my dog. And so right after that, my family was visiting. And usually you'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, let's just go about the day. And I was like, no way, man. I just felt all of that adrenaline, all of those things in my body. And so I just said, I told my mom thinks I'm crazy, but for many reasons. And I said, I need to just shake this out. And I really just sat there and shook my whole body and, you know, like, oh, like really got it out of my system, because otherwise that can start to get stopped up. And especially all the chemicals that flood our body when we're in those situations. So you're completely right. Dogs, birds, like most, you know, creatures, gazelles, when they're being chased by zebras, like they know sometimes when a gazelle gets away from a zebra and almost dies, they'll shake for an hour. They'll just shake and shake and shake until all of that is out of their body. So that inclination to do that during breath work, do it. Like do it whenever that situation. It's like hands, feet as loose as you can get, jaw. It's really, really good. And it also feels amazing afterward. So good instinct on that. I think I saw Lori. Lori, did you have your, I think you had your little Zoom hand up there. Let's see. Unmute there. And if not, no worries. Yes, Mr. Eric from Colorado, go right ahead.
A couple of comments first, that some things I've just started getting into breath work and interested in it and how it affects the body. And so I just finished this book by James Nestor called Breathe. Really good, interesting book. So I'd recommend that to anyone. And also, I'm also a huge fan of Dr. Huberman, but Dr. Andrew Weil has a 4-7-8 breathing technique that he teaches. And there's short videos where he's teaching this technique, but he is a medical researcher at Harvard and did studies on that particular technique. So it's 4, a count of 4 in, hold it for 7, a count of 7, and then a count of 8 exhale. And his research showed that that pattern, 3 cycles of that, will lower cortisol levels in the body. And so it's for dealing with anxiety or when you're above the window of tolerance. Really good. So I would recommend that also. I'm curious, how do you, when you are guiding psychedelic experiences with psilocybin, do you implement this breathing technique, any of these breathing techniques while you're doing that?
That's a great question. Generally, our retreats are focused on most of our guests. It's their first time with psilocybin, or it's their first time in a very long time. So we definitely do a deep breath work experience the first day, and we really focus on the long exhale. So that 4-7-8 breath is very similar, right? Where it's it's only the 4 inhale and that 8 exhale. So like I was telling Christian, in that situation where you're with someone who's challenging, anytime you have a longer exhale is signaling safety, and it's signaling like a lower cortisol in the body. So the breath that we teach as a journey breath with psilocybin is that nice slow inhale and really long exhale. So we don't do kind of an active instructed breath work per se with mushrooms, but I would say 99 times out of 100, if I'm next to someone and they're going through a challenging experience, their breath is very shallow. And so the first thing we do is we, no matter what's going on in the experience, like as long as the body knows that it's safe, and then we can, co-regulate, we as the leaders can co-regulate our nervous system with that person as well. Something I do participate in that I may start to offer here, depending on where people are in the world, is a cannabis breath work. And so that is a more active, like we're going through a similar breath to this, and it changes a little bit throughout, but I work with 2 women who've been doing this for about a year now, and I just experienced it for the first time last week. It was one of the most powerful, honestly, psychedelic experiences of my life, and I've had quite a few. cannabis is such an underrated medicine because it's just, it's everywhere now, and people kind of just use cannabis like, oh, use it for this and use it for sleep and use it for that, or I want to feel high. But it's a super powerful psychedelic when done in the right container. So because we have a little bit more, we're a little bit more aware when we smoke cannabis, I was able to like listen to the instructions and listen to them, and we were in a breathwork experience for about 45 minutes to an hour. And oh my goodness gracious, like I can't even begin to tell you the amount of information. And I mean, it really felt like I was just in a deep psychedelic space. So that could be something if people are interested. It has to be, you have to find your own medicine. Most of you might be in places where it's legal, or you're able, I know Colorado, California, for example, in certain places. But yeah, I really do think that like Zoom wise or like virtual wise, that cannabis breathwork it's something on my radar. And as far as, with mushrooms, I personally, like when I do journeys or when I do journeys with my staff, just because I've been kind of deep into breathwork for a few years now, I generally will kind of, this sounds a little bit woo-woo, but almost like receive instructions, it feels like, from the mushroom medicine of like how I need to breathe in my body, or like where I need to breathe into. And I really credit that. I credit being comfortable with that, with doing a lot of non-medicine breath work, of like really experiencing and feeling safe, with these changing of my state. And that, yeah, great question. I think I had seen that on the on these questions here. Let's see if we can jump over to this real quickly. These were some of the questions that you guys had asked me. I know if anyone needs to go, I thank you guys so much for coming. I know we're running over here, but if any of these were yours, or if you still have any of these questions, I loved some of these questions. The daily practice. I get this one a lot. How often should mushrooms be taken to experience positive changes? I mean, while that incredibly depends on the person, my opinion after working with a lot of people would be 2 large experiences per year if you can, like 2 macro doses, and then microdosing if it's available to you. I think that the mental health of many people could be vastly improved. I really do feel that mushrooms are a huge energetic and emotional cleansing. They're like kind of like power washing all of your emotions and all of your trauma and all of these things. But if we only do it like, once every 10 years or, once in our life, it can be fantastic. But I really do feel that, we have evolved as humans to be participating and interacting with these plants and fungi on a more regular basis, if possible. So for me, I think, I do probably, gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5, I would say, like large or deep, very deep, large journeys per year. And then, of course, I'm microdosing in the ceremonies with you guys at the retreats. I don't really microdose outside of that just because I have such a sensitivity to mushrooms that even the smallest amount puts me in an altered state. I guess you could say fortunately or unfortunately. So I pretty much keep mine to that. But yeah, if any of these questions, if anyone asked them, or if this brought something back up to you that you would like to ask, go right ahead. I will stay on. Because luckily in California, it's only 5:30, so I've got some time if you guys do.
I've got to leave, Amanda. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it. It's Jim.
Say hello to your dogs.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Good night.
Amanda, I just wanted to ask about the Joshua Tree. What's going on with that location?
Lisa, you and I are on the same brain wavelength right now, because I was just about to share that. I was like, oh wait, that was something.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. Here's the little slide. I know that I don't have this in full presentation mode, but that's okay. So in April of this year, there are some, can you guys see that? Just the Buena Vida Sanctuary. So this has been quite a long time coming, and I'm very excited. Actually, the home that I'm in right now, which you can see in that picture in the top right corner, that big red A-frame house, this is the land that I am stewarding out here in Joshua Tree, California, which is in the high desert, about 2 hours southeast of Los Angeles. And if you've ever been to Joshua Tree, it's an absolutely magical, magical place. It's very peaceful and grounding and interesting. So this is kind of an older picture, like an aerial view of the land. And last year, we did about 5 underground kind of mini retreats with some of our past guests. And they were just to kind of test out like what it would be like here. And, I think we had 5 to 7 people or so, and we did a Thursday through Sunday. So everyone came on Thursday afternoon. We had a ceremony on Friday, a ceremony on Saturday. So it was a pretty intensive weekend. And I wanted to do that with, at first, with people that I knew and people who had had an experience with psilocybin in the past. Super, super powerful. So yeah, this is one of California's first churches. I know there's one in Oakland. Some are more underground, some are kind of out and about. We're going to continue to stay a little bit underground because even though constitutionally we are completely protected as a church and as a sacrament, I have the best, in my opinion, the best lawyer in the country. He has started 64 other entheogenic churches, so churches that use a sacrament, peyote, ayahuasca, psilocybin, and he's a constitutional law expert. So by becoming a member of the church, it basically is going to give you access to the retreats. We're going to do a weekly. I grew up in the church, in the Christian church, and so for me, this has been about transforming. What the church really means. Is the church a place where we go to learn from a man standing on a stage, or in our case, I believe a church is where we come to learn about ourselves and our own divine nature, and we use the sacrament of mushrooms to connect to our own divinity and to tap into our own answers and our own resources and our version of God or nature or whatever that means to each person. So we're going to be doing more of this, more kind of weekly and monthly online gatherings. We're going to be celebrating the solstices together and all kinds of like really beautiful things on the land. Right now, I believe in March, so right before we kind of officially open, one of my good friends and a facilitator of ours, Keith, he's coming out with his father to help us build a ceremony space. So right now I'm in the process of talking to one of my teachers and shamans, Santiago, about how exactly you begin to design that space, what it means for the land. And it's going to be extremely beautiful. We're going to have like indoor and outdoor and be able to enjoy the stars. And all of this land is surrounded by public land. So we only have neighbors that are 10 acres away. It's super private. And so that's something to look forward to. Strangely, the retreats in Mexico have actually been kind of like dying down a little bit. Like we've just had fewer people, and over the last few months I was like, I don't know what's really, one of our retreat centers, we're having our final retreat there in February 13th in 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, we're still going to have some retreats in Mexico, whereas I love Mexico with all of my heart, so I don't plan on leaving there necessarily, but I do think that for many people, being able to travel to California, to not have to travel out of the US, is going to be beneficial for them. So I guess a question I would like to ask all of you guys here is, I've been just wondering, if people would want to do that kind of shorter weekend, right? Like where it's, take 1 or 2 days off of work and it's a little bit of a shorter container. Of course, there's a benefit to doing a full week, right? It's like more time away. There's more workshops, like you can go a little bit deeper. But we did find that the Thursday through Sunday was still very impactful and still very powerful. So that was a question I had for all of you guys. I know that a lot of you haven't necessarily been to a retreat, so.
I would say I was at Sayulita. in November, and the week was perfect, especially it was my first time. So just being able to immerse myself in the experience was great. That being said, the Thursday through Sunday does sound good, but maybe with the option if people want to stay a little bit longer. I would probably take advantage of a day or two before being thrown back. And, I think it would work definitely for people that have to get back quickly, but just to give them that option. And I can imagine how beautiful it is at night with the stars. That must be amazing. So that would be exciting to experience as well. Good luck.
One of the darkest
I'm excited to hear that.
the darkest places in the country, actually. So we don't get, because of the mountains, like we don't really get any light pollution from Palm Springs or the other areas. So the skies here are just, I didn't even know. I didn't know, like, because growing up in a city, like how incredible it can be when it's just pitch black dark out. The skies are, I mean, asteroids and comets, and I've seen all kinds of crazy things out here. So it's going to be pretty special. Yeah. So yeah, if you guys, I think most of you guys are probably, oh, hello, it's my doggy. Most of you guys are probably on our email list. And so we'll be sure, in a few weeks before, once we get those dates going and get everything ready. Also, the spring and summer here get really beautiful. And yeah, we'd love to, to have you at a retreat, to have you at a weekend. And with the church too, with its, being basically, it's going to be donation. So we're really trying to work out how we're going to do maybe, some free spaces and some, like donation base or some scholarships, and to be able to, of course, like support the work we do and support all of the leaders and everything it requires, but also be able to open ourselves up to a bigger audience too. And so in that way, most likely the Mexico retreats will stay on that like luxury and like, luxury villa and oceanfront and everything that you guys maybe who've been there have experienced. And it's nice here, it's kind of like a Wild West town. We have like a little saloon with alpacas and chickens, and it's fully surrounded in nature. We go hiking in Joshua Tree. It's amazing. Yeah. Oh, Mary, I saw you today. You just woke up from the breath work. Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I am going to actually have a dance class that I'm getting to this evening. And as you can hear, my dog is ready for me to take him out. So thank you so much for coming to this. I really plan on having more of these. So if people in your life or partners or friends that would love to really learn to tap into some ways of taking that, for me, breathwork is taking my power back and learning that I have some control over my own physiology, and that I don't have to completely allow my external experience to dictate how I'm feeling at all times. And so thank you for that. I'm going to send all of you guys, because I have your email just from the sign up, the presentation, so that you can actually remember the snake and the physiological sigh and the conscious connected breath. And I hope that you, just like Lisa said, just try those 30 seconds, 1 minute of your day, of your time, and just remind yourself, like, I have the self-worth and the self-love and the time to step out of the situation and to drop back into my body, and really take care of myself in this way. So thank you guys so much. So much.